Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. And yes, we're going to check in with our favourite little Swedish doom goblin, Greta Thunberg, who seems to have forgotten about climate change scaremongering. She's now all about Gaza. She's in Copenhagen in a hijab.
Currently outside Maersk, one of the biggest shipping companies in the world, that only the last year, has shipped thousands of tons of military equipment to Israel to arm them during their genocide in Gaza. And we are here to demand that Maersk must stop all the transportation of weapons and weapon components to Israel. They must terminate all contract and investment that support the genocide and occupation of Palestine. And Denmark must implement a full military embargo on Israel. We are here because we know that Maersk are not going to do it for us. We have overwhelming evidence showing that Israel is committing a genocide in Palestine. People have been trying to resist for so long, but they are still not listening.
Oh, she's insufferable, isn't she? But she's got evidence, folks. Greta was among 20 lefties losing it, arrested by Danish police. Has that girl ever done anything other than make a massive nuisance of herself? And never forget, that extremist activist was feted by not just the world's media, but by world leaders who allowed her to lecture them, and some of them listened to her. And here's someone who I don't think would have ended up in Lefties Losing It, Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw from the great state of Texas. But here he is saying he'll kill, or unalive as the kids say, Tucker Carlson.
Have you ever met Tucker?
If I ever meet him, I'll effing kill him. Not joking, that's what he said. A Republican congressman from Texas. How has he ended up on Lefties Losing It? Well, maybe I should let Tucker explain.
The single most left-wing member of Congress I've ever met personally is a Republican from this area who has no interest in the United States whatsoever and does not even pretend. I'm not going to name names. Yeah, it's Dan Crenshaw, the most liberal, most left-wing person I've ever met.
Dan Crenshaw cannot be a congressman again. You just can't. It's just too insulting.
You know, some of the redder states have elected rhinos, Republican in name only. Best fix that before we have another Mitt Romney on our hands. Now to The View, the dangerously deranged ladies of The View who cannot stomach even a few seconds of sense being spoken on their show. Here, Sarah Haynes talks about the heartbreaking story of the Bieber's family being slaughtered by Hamas, mother and 2 children. But no, Whoopi had to jump in with some both sides arguments. And really, this is quite appalling.
These 2 little boys, Ariel and Kafir, they were 4 and 9 months old at the time, and they became, with their mother, kind of the symbol of October 7th, the tragic symbol. And our hearts are with Israel and the family. I mean, this is just the most heart-wrenching part for everyone.
I think because there is nothing positive about any of this.
And their mothers' remains
were also returned.
Were also now
eventually
returned.
Yeah. But you know, for everyone who's affected, for everyone, our hearts should go out.
She just had to jump in with some both sides nonsense. You couldn't let a tribute just go. Just let the family have a tribute paid to.
And again, I just find it so shocking that, in a way, this is, you know, when we talk about things like Hamas, and I look at where we're putting our energy, I think, well, aren't these, who are the bad guys now?
Hamas are the bad guys, Whoopi, or should I use your real name here, Karen Johnson. Hamas are the bad guys, but she wasn't done yet. She then went on a rather incoherent rant.
My point is, when do we stop saying it's these folks or these folks? When do we say, here's the enemy? Here is the enemy. This is what the enemy does. This is what the enemy does to children.
Yeah,
This is what the enemy does to children in Africa. This is what the enemy does to children all over the world because they're the enemy. That's what the enemies do. And why are we supportive of enemies that we know that our sons and grandfathers have fought in the past? What's happening, y'all?
They don't care.
That's the question.
What's happening, y'all? I think what's happening is Whoopi desperately trying not to say what she clearly wants to say. This is, after all, the woman who said it depends who you talk to when discussing whether Hamas are a terrorist organisation or not, and who claimed the Holocaust wasn't about race, it was just white people killing white people.
Also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race, but these are two white groups of people.
Well, how do we have to black people
see them as white people.
But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley.
Now to the fallout from MSNBC's sacking of Joy Reid. Rachel Maddow is irate and doing monologues on her endless love for Joy. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised that one crazed far-left propagandist is going to admire another one. Here is the Russian collusion hoaxer Rachel emoting.
There is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
Indefensible? Are you saying MSNBC is racist, Rachel? Is that what you're implying there? And if so, why would such a self-righteous soul such as yourself want to work for a sinister, bigoted organisation? Now to the wonderful Megyn Kelly, who had a very different take on Joy's sacking, a more reality-based take.
Single tear, white woman tears happening right here, Joy. She was officially fired over the weekend because she's a racist, horrible news anchor with no ratings. And that's really been the truth for a long time. MSNBC's under new management, and I guess they decided to come to grips with reality.
Oh, and didn't that dose of truth set off deranged dimwit Don Lemon, who had this to say to Megyn Kelly? Not the first time here that Don has had an issue with women. Remember, he had to apologise for sexist comments before he was sacked from CNN. Well, he's really, really angry again.
So let me just say to Megyn Kelly, in my 30-some years as a journalist and my 50-some years as a person of color, go yourself. Okay?
Why is he pretending to drink from an obviously empty coffee mug? I think I might just start doing that myself. Just why? Do we need props now? It's weird. To CNN now, and Jake Tapper has written a book on the cover-up about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. Jake Tapper has written this book. Are you kidding me? This is the Jake Tapper who is completely complicit in this cover-up. Just have a look.
I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline. Okay. That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You are no. It's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar.
Talk about weapon-grade chutzpah. Now, here is some virulent racism from South Africa where white people continue to be dehumanised. This next character is known as Nota. He's a music executive, and here he talks on a podcast about the science of why white people are inferior species and savages that are going to die out.
We don't understand white people. White people are inferior species to us. We are Homo sapiens. they've got Neanderthal blood in them. This is the science, and this is not science that was done by black people, it was done by them. You understand? They studied this, and they realized that they're inferior to blacks. So when you look at the white population shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, for us it makes no sense to descend into the savagery that they have. Whatever land that they're holding on to, either way, their numbers are dwindling. Whatever leadership that they had is dying out as well. And you know about wealth disappearing after the third generation that it's passed down to, you know. So they're on the last generation. We're dealing with the weakest whites that the world has ever seen. We've got different categories of evolution of apes. You know what I mean? If we are all apes, we are at the echelon of that. Whites are a step below because they've also got Neanderthal DNA.
He is quite the scientist, this bloke, isn't he? Just a superior intellect, and he wasn't done yet. Here he explains that white folk are like infants.
They will never get it. They're not the same level of human beings we are. So we need to start treating them like infants. When you see an Elon Musk, you see the richest man in the world. No, you should look at him and say, this is the richest baby in the world. We're better than white people at everything that we do, that they do. Better than them at every single thing, every single thing. The best person in every single thing that both black people and white do is black. Everything, every single thing.
Yep. Moving along, let's end Lefties Losing It with a sketch from Nick Peterson on the TDS phenomenon, Trump derangement syndrome. Is there a cure for those afflicted with this condition?
How has the election made you feel on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being Nazi? My name is Dr. Nick Peterson, and I specialize in those suffering from TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Hello. I'm Dr. Peterson. How are you? Well, Donald Trump is a felon. Nope. I asked how you were doing. The majority of Americans can mentally handle election results on both sides of the aisle. However, there's this small, albeit growing, group of, I don't want to say Americans, but people that are just disconnected from reality. Fascist. And honestly, it makes diagnosing these people a whole lot easier. I just check their social media. Gone are the days when you just search your symptoms on WebMD at home by yourself. Now they record their symptoms and post them for the world to see. The haircut is also a dead giveaway. So, what brings you in today? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's the orange democracy-destroying, Putin-loving dictator. All right, so mental illness.